An excerpt of the most accurate account of history as it concerns y'all, or House of Mirrors by Reyes Ramirez. This house is so big that I didn't even notice when the world had ended. What happened was I discovered a new room beyond the mini theater that held the patriarch's booze collection. I figured out the password to the door lock by putting in the birthday of one of the children, 1231, which I discovered from reading said child's journal they hid in the night table next to their bed. I walked into the room and saw years of craft colonialism. Beers from all over the world. 8 different cachacas from Brazil, mezcal from 12 regions of Mexico, several brandies from 6 European countries, independent bourbons and moonshines from Dixie states, wines, gins, whiskeys, etc., etc. I'll be real. I drank as many as I could, which was 3 beers, doubles of local Houston breweries since those wouldn't be too hard to replace if they found out they were missing, long sips of vodka that had been opened already, and a glass of brown fluid from a crystal decanter. I figured whatever this white family paid me to take care of this McMansion as they went out on vacation to the Bahamas, it wasn't enough. So I drank, and I passed out. When I woke up with a hangover the size of a dying star, I went to the kitchen downstairs to drink water and saw an entire ocean of darkness outside the gargantuan windows. The windows are the size of a theater screen broken up into 3 panels along one wall that goes up into a vaulted ceiling where a crystal chandelier hangs redundantly. I'm telling you, this place is a fucking bondo. Well, I looked outside one of the windows and saw nothingness. A nothing so deep that I only saw myself. I figured this was part of an exotic alcohol hangover, so I thought nothing of it. I sipped some artisanal water and slept on a cashmere couch in the living room to get this all out of my head. And when I woke up again, the darkness was still there. Unfathomable, yet absolute. Imagine closing your eyes and not even seeing those wandering, fizzy sprinkles of light from dying brain cells or whatever. Well, I turned on the 60-inch HD TV, and none of the channels worked. Just more black screens reflecting my clueless ass. I looked on my phone and neither the Wi-Fi or cell network worked. Well, it's weird because the chandelier lights were on and water flowed from the nickel-plated faucets and the LCD refrigerator screen sleepily hummed. I tried to call my friend who'd set me up with this job, but the only line beeped thrice and died. Well, everything worked as it might or ought, but there was nothing to access outside of all this functioning. I waited, although I wasn't really sure what for. I sat on a leather chair until my anxiety turned into ennui, which was about an hour. At which point, I opened the front door and looked for something to understand. Again, just nothingness that began where the doorframe ended. Not even my reflection appeared in this blackness. Perhaps out in the distance, I saw a tiny beam of light. I wasn't sure if this was a truth or my mind tricking itself into finding an answer, so I tested out this darkness by throwing random shit I found into it. A fountain pen, an amethyst geode paperweight, a gold-plated desk lamp. Nothing made a sound, as though they didn't land on any ground. They all just became gone, like they never existed. Well, I went, and I grabbed bigger stuff. A leather office chair on wheels, a 5-foot chrome floor lamp, and a cherry oak wooden chair from the dining room. I placed the dining chair back down on the floor and kicked it bottom first out the door, enough so the top still jutted from the abyss. I then took the lamp and poked the shade through to try and hit the cushioned seat of the chair, but nothing happened. I fed the lamp through the doorframe until I couldn't, the heavy base resting in my hands. And when I pulled the lamp back out, only the base and like a few inches of the lamp's pole survived. I studied its end, and it's just the chrome-plated tube and the wires hiding inside itself. Inside left. And so I picked up what was left of the kitchen chair, and the same thing happened. A handful of nice wood. Whatever went in literally became fucking nothing. And though I dropped out of Physics 1301 after 2 classes, I was pretty sure I was a PhD in this new fuckery. And because you do shit more than once in experiments, I pushed the office chair through to see if maybe all those things piled up on some other side, but Nope. I pushed and pushed, and it's going through without resistance. But this is where I fuck up. Because the chair's weight disappeared as I pushed it through the door, and I was offset and slightly tripped. The tip of my right pointer finger gazed the darkness. I don't know if my nervous system detected something, but my first instinct was to put my finger into my mouth like it was a burn. But no. You see, there's no fingertip to suck. I look at my finger and, yep, it's gone. The tip's gone. There's just a smooth, bald end to my pointer finger down to the beginning of the intermediate phalange. It didn't hurt. It's just gone. You ever realize something dire and your heart escalates in pace instinctively? Like right after you close your locked car door with the keys inside, or said something mean to someone you really care about that you should have just kept inside your head? Well, in slow motion, I felt my body initiate that process, anticipating some sort of great pain to begin and never end. I couldn't stop looking at what was missing. It took everything in my being to not think about what every waking moment of my life will now be without my fingertip, and a tear erupting out of my right eye. But yeah, a pain never happened. I'd forgotten to breathe, and that's what broke me out of that trance, the need for air. I swallowed deep gulps of oxygen until I took control and started breathing in through my nose and out my mouth. I could finally move the rest of my body, and the first thing I did was slam the door so fucking hard that my hair lifted. I stepped away from the foyer and sat on the armrest of the couch. I fell backwards and hit the cushions with a soothing thud. I looked up at the blinding chandelier through strands of my hair until I felt numb. I fell asleep. I woke up and nothing had changed. I tried my phone again, but it's the same shit. I now lived in a world of inaction. So I followed its lead. I stayed laying there for I don't know how long, thinking about what all this meant. Well, there's no way that I was just alone in all this, right? I mean, had this house been solely transported to some alternate dimension void by some Hadron Collider clownery that white people are always fucking with? Or had the entire Earth been covered in a blanket of dark matter that came hurtling in from outer space that settled into this current mold forevermore? Or maybe it was just this neighborhood because God or whoever wanted to punish the rich white elites for hoarding wealth, and I just happened to be taking care of one of their homes at that time. That'd be bullshit. But I'd understand if that was the case. After all, when would brown people not be taking care of white people's stuff? I mean, one of us had to bite this turd sandwich, and I suppose it was my draw. Wait. And then I realized I was still technically at work. That I'd be eternally at work, maybe? Give us. But this is the primary flaw with thinking. You only see what's wrong at first, and your mind starts crying and crying. But this existential crisis has spiraled me into a point. I should perhaps do my job to get a grounding in reality until this thing blows over and the whites come back. If this is my life now, well, I can cross that T when my brain accepts it. I look at my finger and see it's new 100%, which is how my mom always taught me to think of loss. Like, rather than think of paying $800 for rent out of your $1,100 check as only having about 27% to survive on, think of those remaining $300 as the true 100%. Now, life takes its cut. Siempre. So, 100% is always relative to what you hold on to or let go of. When you accept that law of gravity holding chumps like me down to this mortal coil, then the world becomes that much more navigable. Which is all another, albeit long way of saying make use of what you got, which is a clunky way to say YOLO, which in turn leaves all that nuance out. And really, that's what you're here for. The point I'm making is being stuck here is my new 100%. And there's still gravity plastering me to this couch. In times like this, I turn to masturbation to give me the proverbial pick-me-up jolt that I employed during all-nighters or to get me out of a spell of debilitating boredom. Since there's no internet or cell network, the issue of now living in a world without infinite pornography to aid me in this endeavor is something I'd rather not think about solving sober. New 100% is all. I start to walk back up the booze room to maybe drink myself into a creative yet intensely focused spell. I remember seeing a cognac that once had a commercial where a woman at a bar ordered it on the rocks. After gulping it down, she raises one of the ice cubes to her red lips and licks it like the small of a bat. Well, as I go up the stairs, the giganto windows are still contain an impenetrable abyss. Like an empty theater screen you stare into for a movie that never starts. I see, however, my ghost staring back, waiting, too, for something to begin. It mimics each of my movements in a shade of gray as though mocking me. I use my new finger to stretch the bag under my right eye south, revealing glassy flesh under my eyeball. It dawns on me that I could actually be the ghost.